I found out my girlfriend was cheating during our Europe trip, and let her pay before breaking up. To start off, I paid for most of the trip. She helped financially by covering a few hotel stays and some meals while we were out there. The trip was my idea, partly to celebrate my birthday and Valentine's Day. I found out she was cheating on me while we were in Madrid. We had an argument after a night out of drinking. The bar we were at had closed during halftime of the Super Bowl, so one of the employees stood up on a chair and started yelling at everyone to follow him to another bar around the corner, apparently also owned by the same owner, so we could watch the rest of the game there. At that point, we had agreed to just go back to the hotel and finish the game on my phone while in bed. However, she needed to use the restroom. Since we were being told to leave, I said, "They probably won't let you use it now. Can you hold it for 5 minutes until we get back to the hotel?" She said yes, but we have to hurry. So I rushed out of the bar with her, navigating our way to the hotel. While we were walking, she asked to see my phone so she could watch the halftime show. I was still rushing, waiting for her as she slowed down, distracted by the show. Because of her distraction, we missed the green light and had to wait for traffic to pass before crossing. Eventually, we got to our hotel and rushed in. Once we were in the elevator, she started panicking and said she couldn't hold it anymore. As soon as the doors opened, she sprinted out, slammed the restroom door, and practically fell onto the toilet, making a loud noise at 3 a.m. She didn't make it in time and peed on herself slightly. I didn't yell. I just nodded in disappointment, and that's when she blew up on me. She blamed me for everything. That I made her leave the bar, that I didn't let her use the bathroom there, and that everything was my fault. The receptionist even came upstairs and asked us to be quiet, reminding us that other guests were sleeping. She had also spilled her drink in the hallway while running to the bathroom, so I apologized to the staff and cleaned up her mess. I went back into the bedroom, frustrated. When I got in, she was drunk, angry, and kept calling me an a-hole. She said it was my fault, and that I always ruined things. I tried explaining that we were literally forced out of the bar, and she wasted time walking slow and watching the show. She wouldn't listen. I eventually gave up and took the blame, just to keep the peace and save the trip. She stormed out saying she needed to talk to her mom. She tells her mom everything, even relationship issues. I told her not to, but she came back inside and just started watching the Super Bowl on her phone. She eventually passed out. During that time, I got ready for bed. When I returned, she was completely knocked out, and her phone was still unlocked. Out of curiosity, I checked to see if she messaged her mom anything about me. And what I found broke me. She had texted her mom, "I'm breaking up with him after the trip." She also told her mom that I was boring, that her ex-boyfriend was better, and even mentioned another guy, her old co-worker. This guy and I had met before. She had always told me they were just friends. They still work at the same company, just in different locations. I checked their conversation. Most of it was about work, but I found a few messages where she invited him over to her place. Some messages were deleted, and they had a few phone calls, so I can't say for 100% sure that she cheated, but honestly, isn't that enough? She told her mom that the coworker was better for her. She invited him over, and then told her mom she was going to keep using me to pay for everything. I haven't said anything about it. I've kept quiet. We still had a week left in Europe, so I decided to just pretend everything was fine, but started making her pay for more things. The next day, I noticed she deleted all the messages with her mom. I saw it happen because she showed me a picture she sent her mom, and I noticed the chat history was wiped. So here's the plan. I'm going to pretend I know nothing. Let her enjoy the rest of the trip. Let her spend more of her own money. And then, once we're home, I'm breaking up with her. Am I in the wrong? Let's see what the community thinks. Top comment. Blunt but not malicious, you should break up now. Tell her she can find her own accommodation and return home. Either way, it won't be on you. Someone else adds. She wants to use you for the rest of the trip and dump you. Dump her now so she doesn't get to enjoy another second at your expense. Another person chimes in. Right on, buddy. Also, please use protection if you sleep with her. I'm sorry you're going through this. I'd be devastated. I'm in Barcelona right now with my girlfriend. If this happened to me, I'd be crushed. If I found some crap like that? Talk about some halftime drama. She couldn't hold her secrets any better than her bladder, and now she's planning to give you the boot after enjoying all the perks you've been paying for? Would it even be worth spending the rest of the trip with someone you know has cheated, or is cheating, on you? I mean, come on. You don't just invite some guy over, and then delete the evidence, if you've got nothing to hide. What would you do? Would you stay and pretend all is okay? So much for happily ever after. For our next stop, it's more like, caught you red-handed, now get lost. My 24F husband, 25M, cheated on me, and I don't know what to do. Me and my husband have been together for almost 4 years. We dated for a year, got engaged for a year, and have now been married for almost 2 years. We've had issues in the past, mostly tied to his drinking and overindulgence. I've always expressed my frustration every time he got drunk. But he never saw it as a big deal. Eventually, he agreed to only drink on the weekends. But even then, he didn't know when to stop. Worse, he's the kind of man who only brings up his frustrations with me when he's been drinking. So every time I got upset about his drinking, it would turn into a massive argument. Not just about that night, but about every single thing he'd apparently been storing up. Things I didn't even know were bothering him. We've never had issues with trust, and I honestly never thought he'd do this to me. At the end of last summer, we decided to move to a different state, because the one we were living in had just become too expensive. Before we moved, he started talking about wanting to switch to a different Christian denomination. He grew up Christian, but never really went to church until he met me. I'm Pentecostal. I've been going to church since I was a kid. Over the past 5 or so years, his family had become Orthodox Christians, and he became very interested in that. I told him, I'll try going to this church with you if it means a lot. But if I don't feel right about it, I don't want to be forced into it. He agreed. Said he wouldn't force anything. That was that. Fast forward. We moved. Started going to the new church. The church and the people were very kind, but I just didn't feel right going there. I expressed that to him. He told me to bring my concerns to the priest, which I haven't done, and honestly don't know if I will. Then about a month ago. It was a Friday night, and I was at work. He works in construction, and I'm in the service industry, so we have pretty opposite schedules. That night, he went out with his brother, cousins, and some friends. All of them are married or have girlfriends. There was no reason for me not to trust him. He called me around 10 p.m., said I should come out. I told him I wasn't really feeling it. He said okay, he'd be home soon. 2 hours later, still not home. He called me 10 times, drunk, confused, lost, alone. I told him, just get an Uber home. He said okay. Then I heard his brother on the other end say, there you are. So I told him to stay with his brother, and to just come home soon. 2 more hours pass. It's now 2 a.m., all bars are closed. We share our locations through Life 360, so I could see where he was. I texted him to come home and eventually fell asleep by my phone. Then I get a call from his brother. They lost him. They couldn't find him. He was alone. Somewhere downtown. I called him again. He picked up. And I heard a woman laughing in the background. I asked, who is that? He said, just a friend. I said, don't lie to me. Who is that? He goes, there's no one here, listen. Then he goes quiet. Lies. Right to my face. I told him, get home now. If you're not back in 20 minutes, I'm locking the door. He said okay. I watched his location start to move. 10 minutes later. We live 15 minutes away, but it took him over an hour to get home. I watched him go through random neighborhoods, weird routes, never stopping, just wandering. What was he doing? Who was he with? Was she in the car? Did they stop somewhere? Eventually, he gets near our house, like a minute away, and then his phone dies. 0% battery. Life 360 shows battery levels. Fine, whatever. He's close. But 20 minutes go by, and he still doesn't come in. So I get in my car and drive to the last updated location. No parked cars. No sign of him. I drive back. Refresh the location. Now it shows he's back down the road again, away from home. I get back in the car, start heading that way, and suddenly, his location starts moving toward me. So I drive home. Sit inside. Watch through the blinds. Then I see it. The car pulls up in front of our house. It's dark, but I can make out their silhouettes. And then I watch him lean over to the driver's side. They're kissing. Not a quick peck. A long, intimate lean in. He leans back. Then leans over again. They kiss for probably a full minute. I watched him turn the dome light on in the car, and I could see them talking and smiling. He turned the light back off, leaned back over, and kissed her again. Another full minute of making out. That was it. I finally stormed downstairs, threw on my jacket, and walked out there. I opened the passenger door of the car where he was, and they were still making out. He turned and looked at me. Drunk out of his mind. Unrecognizable. I looked at him and said, "Stay the F*** away from me. Don't come inside. We're done." I looked at the girl and told her, "You can take him wherever you're going." Then I stormed back inside, locked all the doors, went upstairs, and locked myself in the spare room. It was 4 a.m. at this point. I started trying to call my friends. Nobody was answering. I looked out my window and saw him standing in front of the house. The car had left. Finally, one of my friends picked up. I was bawling. I told her he cheated on me. Then, from downstairs, I heard the door being broken in. He came inside. The door itself was fine, but he broke the trim trying to force it open. I grabbed my purse, my coat, stayed on the phone with my friend, and walked to the front door. He stopped me and asked, "Where are you going?" I said, "Away from you." He said, "No, stay. We're talking about this." I said, "No." He tried to come near me, and I told him, "Get away from me." I turned and asked, "Why? Why did you do this?" And his response, "What do you do for me?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe he actually said that. I walked out to my car, opened the door, and pressed the lock button. As I opened it, he followed me and grabbed my door, not letting me close it. I said, "Let go." He said, "Get inside. Now." We just kept repeating the same words, louder and louder. Eventually, I shoved him hard enough that he stumbled back and let go of the door. That gave me enough time to slam it shut and lock it. He tried to open it, realized it was locked, then hit my window and stormed back inside the house. I drove away, still on the phone with my friend. Eventually, my sister-in-law, his brother's wife, who lives a few hours away, picked up. My friend who answered earlier lives in the state we moved from, so she couldn't physically help. She told me to go to my brother-in-law's house, my husband's brother, who lived just 20 minutes away. Long story short, my sister-in-law and her husband drove up from where they live. Before coming to check on me, they went to our house to check on him. They found him passed out on the floor of our living room. Then, without asking me, they drove him to where I was staying. To make a long story short, his excuse was, "I feel alone. You don't do enough for me. I do all the cooking and cleaning." Yes, I can admit that I could do better in those areas. But that is no excuse for what he did. He claimed he feels emotionally alone because he doesn't share his emotions with me, unless he's been drinking. So I asked him, "How am I supposed to know what you feel if you don't tell me?" We've had this exact conversation multiple times. I told him, "Even if you think it'll make me mad, you need to say something. Letting it fester isn't helping either of us. Still, nothing changes. I packed a bag and stayed the night at his cousin's house. Because nothing came of that first conversation. Just a bunch of "I'm sorries" and no action. He told me he was done drinking, completely. So the next day, I drove over to our house just to see if he was actually keeping his word. I walked in and saw an empty 12 or 18 pack of beer, can't remember the exact count. I said, "You already broke my trust." "Again?" I asked. "Why were you drinking?" And his excuse? "Well, I didn't know you were coming home." I laughed. Because, what kind of answer is that? I said he should be begging on his knees for me not to leave him. I told him how lucky he was to have me, really have me. I'm the most loyal person you'll ever meet. So many men have approached me, wanting to ask me out, but I never once considered it. Why? Because I'm married. Because I was committed. Because I believed in us. After everything happened, my friends bought me a plane ticket home the next day. I stayed there for a couple of days thinking. And eventually, I made the decision to stay and try to work on it. Because I love him so much. Because I wanted to believe people can change. Because I wanted to believe love was enough. But I told him, if I was staying, things had to change. Asterisk no more drinking. He's now been sober for almost a month. Asterisk no more nicotine. Asterisk he needs to get on ADHD medication. Asterisk he needs to get his license back. He got a DUI 2 weeks before our wedding. Asterisk we need to go to a different church. Asterisk he also needs to get a surgery he's been putting off. He hasn't done any of these things for himself since we've been together. But now, finally, he's taken some initiative and gotten appointments set up for most of them. But since I've moved back in, I've had to remind him constantly, just like before. I feel like his mother sometimes. We have an appointment for marriage counseling next week. We had to fill out intake forms. I read his. He stated that the only issue we have is trust, because of his infidelity. That's it. As if that was the only thing we're struggling with. We have so many more issues than that: communication, emotional avoidance, accountability, long-term resentment. I'm struggling with the thought of this happening again 10 years down the line, when we have kids involved. I'm struggling with the possibility that he'll come to resent me, because he wants to go to a church that I don't feel spiritually aligned with. He says he'll go somewhere else to save the marriage, but that sounds like a seed for future resentment just waiting to sprout. I'm afraid he'll go back to who he was, drinking, lying, being passive, and I'll go back to nagging him, like always, just to get the bare minimum. I know this is long, and I don't know how Reddit works, so this might get taken down, but I really don't know what to do anymore. I'd love honest advice. I'm open to answering questions. I obviously couldn't fit all our fights and conversations in one post. Edit something important. He did apologize, not the night it happened, but the next day when his family brought him to see me. He apologized multiple times. Also, he's the one who brought up marriage counseling, if that makes any difference. Let's see how the community reacts. Top comment. He wasn't even sorry at first. He shifted the blame to you. You still went back, even when there was zero remorse, zero apology, and zero action on his end. Why would he change when you returned with no consequences? You should have left. And stayed gone. Someone else chimes in. Please, have respect for yourself and leave this man. He will not change. Do you want to be cheated on while pregnant? Do you want to wonder if he's being faithful after you give birth, when you're recovering and vulnerable? Do you want to grow old worrying that he'll trade you in for someone younger? Another adds. You've handed out enough chances. He's still stuck in rehearsal mode, practicing excuses and empty promises. Why stay in a rerun of heartbreak when you could be writing a new script for yourself? Take center stage. Embrace your worth. Exit stage left from this sorry excuse for a relationship. And remember, the best revenge is living well, with or without him. What would you do? Have you had a similar experience? Share it with us in the comments below. And as always, thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Until next time.